Yo, what up? How you guys doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're here to present you our NFL Week 3 tight end and defensive picks. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our NFL, MLB, and NBA videos. If you haven't came and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily FanDuel and DraftKings cash lineups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for our DFS needs. So make sure you can check out the site here at dfscheatsheet.com. So hey, what up, Jeremy? How you doing out there, bro?
What's up, man? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Another day. Been doing pretty good with MLB, NFL, ready to keep the money rolling going into this NFL week. Man, so I'm ready to talk some defense and tight ends.
Absolutely, man. Hey, a ton of content on the site. We've been absolutely killing it with MLB. Our NASCAR guy Tyler absolutely smashed it last weekend with NASCAR. So hey, we have all the content for all the sports, man. MMA, NASCAR. We've got NBA getting ready to kick off. Full swing with NFL. MLB's got the playoffs. Couldn't be a better time.
Yeah, one thing I do want to quickly throw out there before we jump into it, Jeremy was nice enough to tell you guys last week we're going to continue extending our NFL luxury box special until cash lines don't cash anymore. Cash again last week, so that's continuing. That's still out there. You can use promo code NFL 2019 and get half price on our year-long package. So take advantage of that at the site dfscheatsheet.com. And let's go. You ready to jump into this?
Absolutely. Hey, and if you don't look, NFL 2019, use that promo code. That gets you a full year, right? That's a full year access to all the sports. But if you just want to try it out, jump in right now. You'll get this weekend's cash game lineups. Try it out. $9.99 gets you a 5-day membership. You get this weekend's cash game lineup and access to all the content for the next 5 days. So, little bit of money. Try us out. You got nothing to lose on that. If you don't like it, move on. If you love it, then hop in.
Yeah, for sure. So let's jump right into it. We'll talk about defenses first. The first two teams, I'm just going to kind of clump up together, and you could kind of give me your opinion on them. I think that they're both going to the same price. They're basically, easily, in my opinion, the top two cash game defenses that we're going to look at. You got the Dallas Cowboys going against Miami. We just seen what New England did to Miami last week. And then, as mentioned, you got New England going into the Jets with their third string quarterback. We just seen what Cleveland did, to the third string quarterback of the Jets. So I like the Cowboys and I like New England a lot. I think they're both 5,000. So you kind of just make one line. You make a lineup and you put Cowboys in one. You make another lineup and you put New England Patriots in one. In the exact same lineup, they're the exact same price. So are you with me that those are probably the top two cash game options this week?
So I agree with you. And just to clarify, we're talking about when you're building tournament lineups to build one with the Dallas Cowboy defense and then just swipe out with the second lineup, not in your cash games. Don't do that in your cash games. You want to make sure that you play that same lineup. But yeah, overall, I'm with you. And here's the thing too. I think that the two of them are going to take ownership away from each other. And then I think that you have two other defenses that we're going to talk about, and we could clump them up together as well. I mean, San Francisco and Seattle, 3,500 for Seattle, 3,700 for San Francisco, both facing backup quarterbacks this week. I'll let you elaborate on Seattle, but I think those two defenses facing backup quarterbacks, both defenses have played okay. The 49ers have played better than Seattle's defense has, but I think they'll pull some ownership away from these top two defenses. I think they'll be high owned. They're cash game plays for sure, but I think that in tournaments they'll be a little lower owned than they ordinarily would be without two teams playing backup quarterbacks this week.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're new to DFS, you always want to attack backup quarterbacks. I'll talk a little bit about Seattle, and you can kind of jump into San Francisco. Thing about Seattle, their defense hasn't been looking the best this year. I understand that. But they're at home. They get a matchup against Teddy Bridgewater, who didn't look very good last week. He got sacked 2 times, lost a fumble. I read a crazy stat earlier today about Bridgewater. In his career, he has I think 27, 28 touchdowns, in his career, and he has like 24 turnovers or something like that. Something very close. Like he almost has the same amount of turnovers in his career as he does actual touchdowns that he's thrown or that he's ran in. So he turns over the ball a lot. And you were telling me earlier that the Saints haven't even officially named Bridgewater as the backup this week. So it's like you got a team that's in limbo who they're going to start at quarterback this week. I just think that Seattle at a 3,400 price tag, it's really dirt cheap, and there's something that we can definitely look at in GPPs to kind of have a good week this week at home.
Yeah, hey, I don't mind the play in Seattle with it being Seattle, it being in Seattle, it being all of the things that are going on, the backup quarterback situation. Yes, today they said they haven't actually named Teddy Bridgewater as a starter. I think they could maybe split some stuff. I think you'll see a little more of what they've done in the past. The Saints, when you talk about using Taysom Hill with some specialty stuff, I think that you could possibly look at seeing him in maybe a couple of zone read plays, maybe a little wildcat situation. But I think for the most part, it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to play a lot better than people think he's going to. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback. Let's not forget when he was in Minnesota, he was having a pretty decent year before the injury happened. And then, Minnesota went on a run without Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy Bridgewater never found his way back into favor there. So I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to play decent. I really do. And you mentioned Seattle. They don't have the parts they used to have. I mean, yeah, they got Clowney, but they're missing a lot from that reputation that they seem to carry. They are not the Legion of Boom anymore. For tournaments, I get it. It's a backup quarterback. I get the Teddy Bridgewater deal. I'm just not as high on them in this backup situation as I am on the 49ers.
Okay, well, tell us why you're on the 49ers. I wasn't really looking at them, to be honest with you.
A lot of people aren't going to look at the 49ers, and it's because they've been bad, and they've been bad for a while. But I mean, look, let's just start with a couple of things. They've already created 5 turnovers, which is, it doesn't seem like 5 turnovers is a lot, but it's tied for first through 2 games. From a sack standpoint, they're second. They've had 3.5 sacks as a team, and again, through 2 games, it doesn't seem like it's a lot. But I mean, the 49ers have heavily invested in this defense. They've heavily invested in this defense, and they've with draft picks over the last 3 to 4 years. So not only have they played well, and you could say, okay, it's been against Cincinnati and it's been against Tampa Bay, and we know Jameis Winston's a turnover machine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're a good team, you should beat the teams you're supposed to beat, which they've done. Now they come home. I think there's going to be a ton of energy around this situation. You've got James Conner, who says he's playing this week, banged up. You've got a backup quarterback. Um, it's going to be a loud environment. I don't know if you've been to Levi Stadium. It's not far from us. We're in California, but it's probably the biggest stadium that I've ever been in my life. It's just an enormous place. I think it'll be loud. They're 2-0. Garoppolo's back. They've got a running game. They've got wide receivers to play offense with, and I think that if they can get up on Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh has to pass the ball, what's going to come into play is that defensive line that they've heavily invested in. And I think sacks and turnovers are something that they'll be able to create. Last week, they only had 7 points, but they gave up cheap touchdowns towards the end that cost them. They did score a defensive touchdown. So they've scored defensive touchdowns in each of the last 2 games. They went out, they got D Ford, they got Sheldon Day, they drafted DeForest Buckner. They've got Nick Bosa, so as a high draft pick. They've heavily invested in this defense. They've got a very young secondary that's anchored by Richard Sherman. And I think that if it wasn't a backup quarterback situation and it was the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in 0-2 of Ben Roethlisberger, I would still like the 49ers because they're only 3,700 on FanDuel. It's very cheap. I just think that this is a really good spot for them. They're very, very cheap. And it's a tournament play because, like you said, the top 2 picks, we don't have to overthink those. Those are the cash game options.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So honestly, that's really where I'm at. Defense. I mean, like I said, I really like Cowboys, Patriots for cash, Seattle 49ers for defense. Is there anybody else that you want to throw out there before we move on to tight ends?
I'm going to buy Green Bay again. Last week I said that I was a big favorite and a big buy. Green Bay was a big favorite for me, and I was a big buyer on their defense. We started the Tuesday tailgate video with you pretty much coming out and saying, "Hey, looks like Green Bay's got a defense." I mean, that was the meme. So Dean Lowry and Kenny Clark, and they've got the secondary with Drew Alexander, Kevin King, Adrian Amos. I mean, I like this young Packers team. And remember what I said last week: you don't let a Clay Matthews just leave if you don't know that you've got some talent on your football team defensively. So that's another team that I'll throw in the hat there as a GPP play that is a off the radar type play going against a team. And we talked about Flacco. He threw the ball 50 times last week. They've struggled to run the football, and any situation where a team is going to have to, they're not efficient. If they're going to have to throw the ball a whole bunch, there's a lot of opportunities for turnovers and sacks. So Green Bay is probably the 15 for me that I like.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely get behind that. Like I said, we did talk about them the other day. Moving on to tight ends, I think that there's definitely some really good tight ends that we could target this week. I'm going to start with the guy that I think, we want to talk about cash games. A guy that I really like this week, and I think he's probably the cash game tight end, is going to be Zach Ertz. I mean, you got Eagles, they're absolutely banged up. Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffries, they're questionable going into this week. They left last week's game, and guess what? We've seen Ertz get 16 targets just last week alone, caught 8 of them for 72 yards, so it wasn't necessarily the most productive on those targets. But the fact the guy got 16 targets is just crazy. 6,900, he's still under 7,000. Going against a Detroit's defense that isn't very good. I really like Zach Ertz this week, and I think he's for me. I think he's the top tight end going into this week. When we're talking about cash games, would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, at 6,900, it just seems like it's a really good deal for Zach Ertz.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other guys that I'm looking at. Guy I mentioned last week on this video for you guys, and I hope you guys listen. Mark Andrews. I'm going to go back to that. Well, yes, he is questionable going into this week. He was questionable last week with the same injury. Ended up playing, but this guy's kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, he's $100 less than Ertz, so I definitely rather play Ertz in cash. But to differentiate yourself and get a good GPP play at the tight end position, I think that Mark Andrews is a guy you can look at. Through the first 2 games of the season, he has 17 targets. He caught 16 of the 17, so he's making the most of his targets. Averaging 110 yards per game through the first two games, and he already has 2 TDs. So I think going against this Kansas City defense, who we mentioned, since week 1, who isn't necessarily the best defense that lost a bunch of pieces. I think that Mark Andrews is a guy that you can look at again once this week.
Yeah, I mean, a touchdown in each of his first 2 games. Can he continue the pace? Can he continue? Hey, at tournament play, I'm all for it. Let's see if he can keep it rolling.
Yeah, who you got going right now? Who's standing out to you at the tight end position?
Look, I'm gonna go. Look, you. I've said it time and time again. The best friend of a young quarterback is a good running game and a tight end. And the Giants have a tight end in Evan Ingram, and he's got 22 targets, only second to Zach Ertz through the first 2 weeks of the season. We know that they want that he's really the talent they have from a receiving standpoint. They don't have a receiving core. The receiving core is either traded away or banged up. So their 2 best receivers are Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley. So you know we saw George Kittle have 2 touchdown passes called back against Tampa Bay. Here goes a tight end, a very athletic tight end who can run across the middle of the field. He can run the stick route. He can run the drag route. He can run the read route. So Ingram's a guy I like a lot. I like George Kittle as well. Look, we talked about Seattle's tight end having the 2 touchdowns and the red zone targets. We know that George Kittle is going to get red zone targets. We know he's going to get targets anywhere on the field. So the interesting thing for me with George Kittle this week, Joe Staley's out and he's going to be out. So I think you're going to see Kittle in the check down game. I think they'll use Kittle to chip and release to help out the pass protection situation. And I think anytime you're talking about a big target playing the role of check down receiver and a guy like him who can run, I think there's a potential for some really big plays for him with yards after the catch this week. So I like Kittle quite a bit. And really, You're talking about defenses with the Cowboys and the Patriots being able to interchange them. The tight end position is that this week. I mean, you look at Ingram 6,400 on FanDuel, Kittle 66, Andrews 68, Ertz is 69. You can literally build the same lineup and change those four guys out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree. I like the Kittle call. I think he's going to come a little bit lower owned this week, just because he let a couple people down, including myself last week. And Evan Ingram as well, man. I like Evan Ingram. Him and Barkley are they're the two main guys that they're going to be targeting. The only thing about Ingram that scares me a little bit, I know that young guys do like tight ends, but we seen Evan Ingram right now, 22 targets through 2 games. That was with Eli Manning. Eli knows what he had in Ingram, so I want to see kind of what happens this week with the young guy. But I definitely can still get behind the play at
I'm not
GP.
I'm not saying to you from a standpoint of like Eli Manning like the tight end or young quarterbacks like the tight end. I'm saying from an offensive scheme standpoint, when
Yeah, I
you've
get
got when you've got a young quarterback, you try to protect him with the running game, the play action game. And
short
if you're
passes.
talking about the play action game, you're talking about the tight end over the middle of the field, behind linebackers, on the drag route, on the stick route, on the read route. So that's why I'm saying I like tight ends when you're talking about a young quarterback, because coordinators will try to use the tight end to help, one, with protection, and two,
Get the
with
ball
the
out
middle of
quick.
the field to get the ball out in the quick passing game. Absolutely. So moving on from those guys, I think there's also a couple of guys you could look at, really a group of four guys that you could look at in deeper tournaments for GPP plays. And I really like this kid Hawkinson. I've talked about him each of the first 2 weeks. Um, I really think this is a week that you could also look at Greg Olson. This could be the week that Greg Olson has the 2 touchdown week. Arizona is not good against the pass. They're I think 30th in DVOA through 2 weeks against the pass. Greg Olson, a favorite target of Cam Newton. You talk about a guy who's an inaccurate passer, but a veteran passer. He loves McCaffrey and he loves Greg Olson. So I think this
Right.
could be the breakout week for Greg Olson against Arizona. And then I'm going to go with our guy, man. I really think you could take a look at Jason Witten. Miami's terrible. You look at the week that every other tight end has had so far, and including your boy Mark Andrews, who had a monster week against them with 8 targets, 8 catches, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Witten does have a touchdown in each of the first 2 games, and the way they're using him, kind of getting him back into the scheme of things, it seems like they're using him in the clutch situations, third downs, red zone opportunities, stuff like that. So, um, as much as I think it's a Zeke week, I think you can also look at Witten in tournaments.
Yeah, for sure. I will be doing our viewers a disservice. I mean, I have to throw him out there at least. Travis Kelce, 8,000. I understand he's by far the highest priced tight end. I definitely would rather go with Zach Ertz in cash games. We made that very clear. But Travis Kelce, with no heel on the field, he's going to continue to get the targets. This week he got double-digit targets. He's going to be getting targets in the red zone. So yeah, man, Travis Kelce, top 2 tight end in the game. Even against a little bit tougher Baltimore defense. I mean, we've seen what Mahomes does. No matter who he's going against, he's going to sling the ball around the field. He likes throwing Travis Kelce. So I think Travis Kelce, I think he's going to come in low owned. People are going to look at it like, look, he's going against a Baltimore's defense who's pretty good. And he's 8,000. So I think he's going to come in low owned, and I think that he's a guy that you could definitely look at in tournaments to kind of differentiate yourself as well.
Absolutely, Kelsey's a beast, man. He's a beast, and 17 targets, 10 catches, 195 yards and a touchdown through 2 games. We knew he'd kill the Raiders. He always kills the Raiders, but in this situation, the thing that you have to take into consideration is that there's no Tyreek Hill still. So without Tyreek Hill, he's gonna look to Kelsey. It's a safety valve, and I think that you're gonna see Andy Reid be creative with getting Kelsey and LaShawn McCoy involved in the passing game. I still believe that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's about where we're at with defense and tight ends
You
for
want
this.
you want a sleeper? You want to sleep? Just I'll give you a sleeper that nobody's gonna have. There's one sleeper that if you want a punt play at tight end, you can look at this kid Dawson Knox for Buffalo. Buffalo playing this week against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's given it up in the passing game in each of the first 2 weeks. Dawson Knox had 4 targets last week. He's bare minimum value, 4,500. I think you can see this kid finally get a touchdown. 6 targets through the first 2 games. That's good for a tight end. It's not Travis Kelce or Zach Ertz or even Ingram targets, but it's a guy they're involving in the passing game. It's a young kid, $4,500 against a team who's been terrible against tight ends so far. So there's your sleep for Dawson Knox.
For sure. Hey, I like her, man. I like the play. So yeah, I think that's about all we got for you guys for this video. If you want to check out all of our other position videos, make sure to check out the site dfscheatsheet.com. Take advantage of our promo code NFL 2019. You get a year membership, half off. It's an absolute steal. And hey, good luck on your guys' contest this week. All right, peace out.